I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Agreeing with God. A Course in Miracles, lessons 100 through 103, say that God's will for me is perfect happiness, and I agree with God's will. So take a moment, first of all, to just digest that, because it flies in the face of the false idea that we were born sinners and that we have to work our way back to God, and that God is angry, punitive, and vengeful, and would rather punish us than embrace us. A Course in Miracles paints a different picture of God as benevolent, beneficent, and present always within us, because the God of A Course in Miracles is as near as our breath. So imagine, what if there was no angry, vengeful, punitive God? What if we weren't cast out of the Garden of Eden? What if we weren't prodigal children? And what if we didn't have to work our way back into God's good graces, like the Greek mythology says, because we never left God's good graces, and we don't have to go through all kinds of trials and tribulations? If we believe that we weren't cast out, then we could believe what the Bible said in Romans 8:35 through 39. Nothing shall separate us from the love of God. So as opposed to sinners cast out of the Garden of Eden, or as prodigal children separate from God, A Course in Miracles teaches us that we are one with God, God is one with us, and we are full and holy. Never have we been sinners, and never have we been doomed to pain and suffering to pay for those sins. For A Course in Miracles says, there is no sin, it has no consequences. So in order to agree with God's will for our perfect happiness, we must first digest the idea of a God of unconditional love. And we must reject the idea of our sinfulness and our undeservingness. So let's explore this for a moment. God wills our perfect happiness because we are an extension and an expression of God's love. And God wills that we would be fulfilled, peace, and at joy. Because when we are fulfilled, when we are at peace, and when we are in joy, we are a part of the wholeness of God, and the wholeness of God is magnified. In the same way that when you step into a room and you smile and laugh, the whole room starts smiling and laughing, because we affect the whole. And the more happiness, peace, and joy there is in the essence of God, the more God is happy. However, sadly, what generally happens is that God is saying yes to us, and we are stiff-arming God's yes and saying, no, no, God, I don't deserve this good, because what about what I did when I was 8 years old? No, God, I don't deserve this good, because someone told me I wasn't enough. No, God, I don't deserve this good, because good is reserved for someone who is perfect, and I am absolutely imperfect, because that is what the world told me. So quite often, we are saying no to God. It's like God is pouring its love onto us, and we are spitting out the nectar of God's love. So how do we agree with God instead? How do we agree with God instead? We first identify the no, then we heal and transform the no, and finally, we vision the yes. And that's how we agree with God. We identify the no. This part is actually quite easy, because the no is pretty obvious. The no is staring you in the face. Anything that you are not enjoying is an outward expression of your inner no. Anything that is difficult, unpleasant, is a part of you that is saying no. So what do we do when we identify the no? When we identify the no, the next thing we do is heal and transform it. This no lives within you as the energy of fear, doubt, anger, shame, undeservingness, or any other type of negativity that would say no to the yes God offers. It's a function of your miseducation and past experiences. However, the power of God can overcome this, and we just have to let that power in. As 1 John 4th chapter 4th verse said, the power of God within you is greater than anything in the world. So the power of God that we invoke when we say, God, I let you in, can overcome the negativity that lives within us. It transforms it. It heals it. Energetically, it shifts it. So we pray. Prayer is the medium of miracles. We pray, God, I let you in. We pray, God, heal this part of me that has felt unloved, unworthy, broken, and unable to sustain the good you will for me. We pray, God, transform this, that I might be what you envision me to be, your holy beloved. And as we continue to pray, and I actually use a prayer sandwich, I start with meditation so that I can identify the no. I pray the no into a yes, and then I release the old energy, the old negativity, and that release creates a void where the yes can move in. And once we transform the no into a yes by creating that void, the yes moves in. So what do? We envision the yes. What does yes look like? What does yes feel like? How would our lives look in yes? And we start feeling that energy of yes. And when we start feeling that energy of yes, we vibrate with that energy of yes. And when we vibrate with that energy of yes, we send that energy of yes out to the universe, and that energy attracts its reflection to us. And that is why we align with God and God's energy and God's love through prayer, and God turns that no into a yes, and we agree with God. God then says, I love you. You can be happy and fulfilled. You can have joy and ease. And we say, I agree with you, God. And our lives turn into joyful, easy experiences. This is the yes God wills for you, but you must choose it, and you must choose it over and over again by working in your daily spiritual practice of meditation, of prayer, and of transformation, and continually letting God in and saying yes to God. And each time you do this, you will experience the miracle, because with God, all things are possible. So let me tell you how this works. Recently, I planned a trip abroad, and I was so excited. And a few days before that, as I was looking at this trip with anticipation, I thought to myself, man, I'm happier, more fulfilled than ever before. My life is easy and in joy. And I should have remembered what Ian Van Zandt taught us, which was, when you declare yourself a thing, anything unlike it shows up for healing. So there were remnants of me that were still saying no. And it showed up in that the afternoon before I was to leave, I was packing, and I went down to my car and I went to get my passport, because I always leave my passport in the trunk of my car. I went down to get my passport, and my passport wasn't there. And I realized, oh, I just traded my car in, and my passport is in the car that I traded in. This was the afternoon before my trip. I believed it was impossible to get an emergency appointment with the passport office in order to get a passport within 24 hours. So I called around. Nothing was available. They had one appointment available in Houston, but it was impossible to get to Houston in time to get the appointment. Called around. So I did all the work I needed to do in the outer work. And then I realized I need to do the work in the inner work, because the inner me is saying no. And so I did exactly what I'm sharing with you to do. God, help me understand the no that I might turn it into a yes. And the no was the remnants of the part of me that said, it's got to be difficult. There must be a price to be paid. I must carry this cross. I must bear this burden in order to have the good of God. And I realized that's not true. God wills my perfect happiness. So I said, God, I let you in to any part of me that is resistant to the good you offer. I let you into any part of me that says no to the yes you offer. God, fill me, heal me, and transform me with your love so that every part of me vibrates with yes. And I work with this, and I work with this, and I work with this. And I not only work with this with myself, but I took it to my community, because you know, if you have a community around you, you amplify and magnify the energy of God exponentially. And we prayed on it, we worked on it. And so after my class, I called the passport office again. Something told me they close at 10 o'clock, call at 5 to 10, they've gotten a cancellation. I listened to that something, I called again, they had a cancellation. Next morning, I had my passport and I was on my plane. Nothing is impossible with God. God, through me, did the impossible and got me a passport within 24 hours. God, through you, can do all that you desire. Your task and my task continually is to say yes to God. God is saying yes to us. Our task is to continually choose the same yes. It's like God is a fountain, a faucet of good. We have to hook up to that fountain and let it flow to us and through us, in the same way that you've got a faucet outside. You've got to hook your garden hose to it. We hook up with God through prayer. We hook up with God through meditation. We hook up with God by releasing the no and allowing the yes. And when we allow the yes, all things are possible. For with God, all things are possible. And this is agreeing with God. So my question to you is, do you agree with God? And do you agree to agree with God if you find some places where you are not agreeing with God? Do you agree to go into prayer, go into meditation, develop a daily spiritual practice, commune with a community of like-minded individuals, that you might be in alignment with the yes of God, so that you might say yes to the yes God offers? For that is the key to the joy and the satisfaction and the fulfillment that God wills for you. When you say yes to God, God says yes to you. And with God, all things are possible. Thank you.
Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you, what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. And I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having us.